Latest update on Tropical Storm Beryl. I'm just going to make sure everything's ready to go here and live. And I think we are. Alrighty, welcome back everybody to our latest Tropical Storm Beryl update. Obviously, it's still a tropical storm. We're going to be talking about what Tropical Storm Beryl is doing right now and what's expected here over the next 48 hours. As Tropical Storm Beryl is currently about 45-ish hours away from landfall in Texas, and it is beginning to ramp up again. It has not become any stronger than before, but it is actually starting to organize more, which does lead to believe that we might start to see some sort of intensification as this gets closer to Texas. Now, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below, like the stream, and we'll be keeping you posted with the latest on Tropical Storm Beryl as we get closer. We are live on both YouTube and Facebook, by the way, so again, another dual live stream. We'll be doing dual live streams tonight, and then tomorrow it'll only be on YouTube. So if you're watching on Facebook, make sure to subscribe to our channel. The link is in the description. All right, let's begin with what Tropical Storm Beryl looks like right now in the open Gulf of Mexico waters. Right now, it is a tropical storm, sustained winds near 60 miles per hour. So basically the same as yesterday where we left off at. It has not increased in intensity by any means. It's still the same tropical storm. The pressure, though, is actually going to be a little bit lower than yesterday. It's back under 1,000 millibars, down to 997 millibars as of right now. And again, it's still well to the south and east of Texas, and it is slowing down. It's not as fast as it once was. So as this makes an approach to Texas, this particular tropical storm is expected to slow down. Now, in our next outlook, I am not expecting any sort of big upgrade. We do have a National Hurricane Center update right at 4 o'clock Central Time, which is in about 43 minutes from now. I don't think we're going to see an upgrade, just purely due to the fact there's no aircraft recon currently in Tropical Storm Beryl. With that said, the last time they were in here, it looked somewhat similar to what it looks like right now in infrared imagery, so it didn't look very different, and I don't really think we've seen any intensification that's meaningful, at least, over the last really 6 hours or so. I think it's been pretty flatlined, because again, right now, Tropical Storm Beryl is battling a lot of wind shear and a lot of dry air, and that should continue to keep this thing a little bit weak for the rest of today. Now, by tomorrow morning, this is expected to start to intensify as it moves towards Texas. It will start to increase in wind speeds probably as early as tonight, but also it could be as late as tomorrow morning. And then once we go into the afternoon and evening hours, this will start to approach areas in southern Texas, like Brownsville, for example, where we will start to see some tropical storm impacts. There are already tropical storm warnings in effect to the south of Corpus Christi, and there are also hurricane watches from Corpus Christi back closer to Galveston. Now, as we go later into the evening tomorrow, this is expected to become a Category 1 hurricane with sustained winds probably near 75 miles per hour, and then upon landfall, it is still questionable whether this will be a Category 1 hurricane or if it could be a bit stronger than that. It could go under some sort of rapid intensification as this gets closer to the Texas coast, and that would be the highest likelihood if it went towards Houston, which a lot of models are not really showing that anymore. Most models are actually bringing this between Corpus Christi and Victoria, where the most substantial impacts would be expected when it comes to flooding, storm surge, and hurricane force winds. Nonetheless, this is going to be a hurricane that is mainly going to be concerned with flooding and as well as storm surge and the potential for tornadoes. The winds I'm not super concerned about aside from where this makes landfall, because outside of that, we're going to be just talking about gusty winds. So like, for example, if this made landfall near Corpus Christi, I think the impacts up near Houston would be predominantly just rain and then storm surge if you're near Galveston. That's what I'm thinking, at least at this point. Now, once we go later into the day Monday, it will be a tropical storm again to the west of Houston, and then eventually weakening into a tropical depression as we go into Tuesday morning to the south of Dallas-Fort Worth. The question mark does become, where does this actually go after it goes into Texas? Well, if it takes a more westerly line track here across the left side of the cone of uncertainty, we'll probably end up seeing a lot of rain in areas like Dallas-Fort Worth. But if it goes more over here to the east, we might not see anything at all in North Texas. So if you're over in North Texas, it is a big hit or miss when it comes to rainfall there. And then beyond that, we could end up seeing a multi-day tornado threat that could exist anywhere from Texas all the way back through Louisiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, and it could even race up into Ohio depending on the jet stream. And that's going to play a big factor into the long-term track of Tropical Storm Beryl, which again is expected to become a hurricane. All right, let's talk more about the forecast and give you an idea of what's actually still happening. So again, this is another view of the infrared imagery. Obviously, yesterday, this barely had any convection. Now there's a pretty big convective burst right near the center of Tropical Storm Beryl. I do want to point out one thing, though, here on the geocolor satellite here. Notice this little outflow that you can kind of see here just to the left of the eye, which the eye, by the way, is kind of buried in here under some of the convection. This right here actually gives you an indication that there is quite a bit of dry air associated with this area of circulation. So we are not still looking at a really healthy tropical storm, even with it producing 60-mile-per-hour winds. This is really not a healthy tropical storm at all right now. You can actually see how sheared off this is still. I mean, the center of circulation, it's going to be in here kind of in the convection, but just look at all these clouds on the outskirts here. Those are all low-level clouds, and basically all the convection has been sheared off of Beryl, and it's all pretty much moving to the north, and that is why there's a funky appearance here on the satellite imagery. And a lot of people are like, whoa, this is all of a sudden moving towards Louisiana. That's not true. That is just, again, the pure factor that we have just a lot of wind shear right now that's kind of ripping a lot of this convection off as we speak. Here's another view of that on a closer up view of the infrared imagery. Let me just zoom out a little bit here so you have a better view. Again, here's your large convective burst just on the north side of where the center of circulation is. Again, some of those low-level clouds just kind of spinning here around this area. As we go later into tonight, when the wind shear dies down a little bit more and dry air is less of a factor, I do think this is going to start to organize more as it goes towards Texas. At least that's what I think for right now. Here's the National Hurricane Center outlook from 1 p.m. Central Time. Again, we'll have a new one in about 30 minutes, so really overall, I don't expect any major changes, but I do think the landfall location of Tropical Storm Beryl, which will be a hurricane more than likely upon landfall, I think will be somewhere around Corpus Christi, maybe just to the east of Corpus Christi, Texas. I think it's Refugio County. I might not be pronouncing that right, but Refugio County, Texas has actually gotten evacuation orders. If we just zoom in on the map here, I'll show you. It's right here. Let me take off infrared imagery. This is the county right here, so just north of Corpus Christi for Refugio, I think that's how you pronounce it, just south of Victoria. That area is under evacuation orders that are mandatory ahead of will be Hurricane Beryl as it gets closer due to storm surge, flooding, rains, and hurricane force winds. So if you are in that county, obviously take those evacuation orders seriously. Capano Bay is the general vicinity as well of where that significant storm surge will be. But as I mentioned before, we'll talk more about the cone of uncertainty probably at 4 o'clock, because that will be the next update from the National Hurricane Center. But again, the cone of uncertainty basically gives you an idea of where the eye of Tropical Storm Beryl could go. It could take a more path down the left side of the cone of uncertainty. That'll bring even more rain to areas like North Texas, for example. It could also go down the right side of the cone of uncertainty, and it could go towards areas like Louisiana and Mississippi down the road, bringing rainfall and a multi-day tornado threat that direction. But again, where this goes is going to really determine where our tornado risk is. I think for Monday, our tornado risk will be primarily between Houston and Corpus Christi, and then by Tuesday, it'll probably start to go up into Louisiana, Arkansas, and East Texas. So the greatest tornado threat out of Beryl will be on the north and east side of the eye. So basically, again, when it makes landfall, if it makes landfall near Corpus Christi, greater tornado risk will be east of Corpus Christi in that particular scenario. Now, almost every computer model is basically on board with where this makes landfall. Let me get the most recent data, though. This is from last night. 1 second here. We got the most recent model data. That is old. This is the most recent model data, though, in terms of where we are expecting Beryl to go over the next several days. So again, landfall is currently expected within the next 48 hours. So again, this is not far from now. We're less than 2 days away, essentially, from landfall. Somewhere around Corpus Christi is, I think, where we're going to see landfall out of Tropical Storm Beryl. And then after that, things become a little bit more hairy. We could see this get closer to Dallas, Fort Worth. In that case, we're talking about more significant rainfall up there. Flooding, rain will be a concern probably for several days, even after landfall, as this continues to move to the north and northeast. And then we'll also be watching for the potential of this even going maybe further to the east, perhaps towards areas like Tennessee, Kentucky, and Arkansas, where we will also have the potential for tons of rain if the eye of this particular system goes all the way through those areas. Now, by this point, it will be a tropical depression, or it'll be the remnants of Beryl. It will probably not be a tropical storm by any means by the time it gets into areas like Kentucky Kentucky and Tennessee. With that said, it is probably still going to have a lot of rain as long as the jet stream kind of brings this thing up to the northeast. It's just going to have a lot more moisture to work with, and we could end up seeing a multi-day flooding event that'll possibly start again from Texas, and it could go all the way up into the Ohio Valley. And I do think we are going to have several days of tornadoes with this particular system. So obviously tornadoes is not something that you might think of a lot when it comes to a tropical storm or hurricane, but in this case it is just in a very favorable spot right now. If it can catch the right exit of the jet stream, we will likely start to see a higher chance, at least, for tornadoes beginning Monday, and then rolling all the way throughout the middle of the week. Ensembles basically on board with landfall being around a category 1 hurricane. Most of the computer models that we've been using from the Tropical Tidbits website basically show the same thing as well. This is just a selection of different models. When it comes to the intensity of this upon landfall, they are all between a tropical storm or a category 1 hurricane. There isn't really anything that is higher than that, so hopefully it doesn't rapidly intensify. The thing is, these models do not factor in rapid intensification very well. So again, rapid intensification is definitely a possibility upon landfall. We're going to skip this. We're going to go to... Let's first start with the HRRR model, then we'll go back to the GFS. All right, so we're going to show you a couple different scenarios with Beryl. Let me go ahead and go back to this screen. So this is just full screen. And there we go. So this is a few different scenarios that could end up evolving with Tropical Storm Beryl as it makes landfall. The HRRR model has corrected itself. Last night it showed like a very weak, like basically tropical depression. The thing is, it was not calibrated to actually forecast this, basically because it was just too far to the south out of the area that it can actually forecast. So now it's in the area forecasting, and so now we have more data, at least from the HRRR model, in terms of Beryl. So late tomorrow night, the HRRR model has us going just to the southeast of Corpus Christi. It will start to bring impacts to areas in South Texas beginning tomorrow afternoon and evening. I do plan on having a bit more of an extended live stream tomorrow. Once we go into the late evening Sunday night and early Monday morning, the HRRR model actually has us making landfall as early as right around 2 a.m. actually Sunday night, which is pretty interesting. And then once we go into the morning hours, this continues to move to the north, going through areas in southeast Texas and eventually going towards areas like DFW. At least that's what the HRRR model is showing. Again, this is the area where the greatest tornado threat will reside. It's going to be in these outer bands on the north and east side of this tropical storm or hurricane, depending on what it's at that particular time. This tornado threat will probably start as early as late Sunday night and then roll all the way through the morning hours. The HRRR model has one of the earlier landfalls out of any model, so just keep that in mind. Most of them have it making landfall sometime in the early to midday on Monday. Here's a look at the wind gusts from the HRRR model. And again, I want to point this out because a lot of people think that this is going to be a big Category 5 hurricane. Again, that's not the forecast, all right? If you're seeing TikToks, if you're seeing Twitter posts that Category 6 hurricane or whatever is coming to Texas, that's just false information at this point because nothing like that is forecasted. We are forecasting this to be a Category 1 hurricane upon landfall, but we are wanting you to prepare for a Category 2 hurricane because this could get to that stage where it could produce some more significant winds if it is able to rapidly intensify in the western Gulf of Mexico late tomorrow. That is a question mark, but it could happen. You need to be preparing for basically worst case scenario, which right now is Category 2 hurricane. I wouldn't rule out a major hurricane. I just think it's a really low chance at this point with how disorganized it currently is. And then, you know, by tomorrow, it might not be looking much healthier until probably the late afternoon. So just something to keep in mind there. But the HRRR model has the worst of the wind making landfall right around 2 a.m. to like late tomorrow night into early Monday morning. So again, the HRRR model, one of the earliest landfalls out of any model right now. And so just to the east of Corpus Christi is where it has it making landfall. Notice this area of wind gusts. That's upwards of 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts. The hurricane force wind field is not going to be massive, all right? This is not going to be 600 miles wide, all right? This is not going to impact all of Texas with hurricane force winds. We are talking about quite the localized area. Ever since the start, Hurricane Beryl was pretty small throughout the Caribbean Sea, and I don't think it's going to be any different here in the state of Texas by either as well. But as we go into Monday morning, I would expect the worst of the wind to be somewhere near Lake Jackson and Victoria. Right between Corpus Christi and Lake Jackson is where the worst of the wind will be. And then as this moves inland, there will still be some high wind gusts, probably all the way up towards Austin and even near Houston. It's going to be pretty hit or miss, but again, these wind gusts are going to be pretty much like a severe thunderstorm. It's not going to be much different when it comes to the wind gusts as this moves more inland. I do not expect this to be that intense as we go into Monday afternoon, but it will at least still have some tropical storm force winds. Now, in terms of total rainfall, the HRRR HRRR model really does not go out far enough to give us an indication of what could happen in North Texas, for example, or anywhere else, but it does show a lot of rainfall near Houston. Again, potentially over a foot of rain in some locations back down near Lake Jackson, for example. But I do think in a general sense of things, it's going to be a pretty small storm overall, or hurricane upon landfall. And so it's not going to impact, you know, again, the entire state, but it will be impacting a pretty significant area. Right around Austin and San Antonio back towards Beaumont is really the range of where the worst of the rainfall will be. Even then, areas like Austin and San Antonio, you might not see much of anything. Again, this particular track right now is bringing this to the east and northeast of Corpus Christi, which I think is where we're going to see landfall tomorrow night into early Monday. And so I think the worst of the rainfall really will be from about Columbus back into Houston, and then anywhere right along the coastline with that onshore wind will definitely bring a lot more of those showers and thunderstorms. If we get some of those training supercells that move throughout Houston, that is where we will have the potential not just for flooding rains, but also the potential for tornadoes. And this is the HRRR model run as we go into late Sunday night. So our tornado risk will probably start to ramp up very early Monday morning, and then it'll start to get going as we go into the afternoon hours across parts of southeast Texas. And you might be wondering, how is that possible? Well, we have a lot of spin in the atmosphere on the eastern side of a hurricane. That is very typical. We saw it with Ian back, literally, we saw it with Ian not too long ago, and Hurricane Ian was about, you know, it was a category 4 or 5 hurricane upon landfall back near Cape Coral, and then it went inland. But the tornado threat happened actually a day before it made landfall, so that didn't happen the day of. In this particular case, our tornado threat would happen the day of, because the bands that we're going to be seeing are going to be moving inland on Monday. Ian was just such a large hurricane that the outer bands were actually reaching Florida well before the landfall. It was about 24 to 36 hours before landfall when we saw that tornado risk really maximize. And the day of landfall, we really didn't see any tornadoes. But in this case, it's a bit of a different situation. Those outer bands will be moving inland towards areas like Houston, Galveston, and also Beaumont as we go into Monday. So that is where the tornado threat will definitely start to ramp up. This is the significant tornado parameter values from the HRRR model. So if you're just curious where we'll see this tornado risk, well, again, this model does not really go far out. It only goes until about 1 p.m. on Monday in terms of central time. So the tornado risk, I think, will really ramp up Monday afternoon and evening. And I do think there is going to be a chance here that we do end up seeing this tornado threat really maximize during the afternoon and evening hours across southeast and east Texas. Now, you might be wondering, will we see a tornado risk back up in North Texas? It's going to, again, depend on the track of this, but if it does track towards Dallas-Fort Worth and the northern side of this hurricane, which by this point it would be a tropical storm or depression, if that northern side tracks up that direction, we might see an isolated tornado or two, but I don't think the risk is honestly that high at this point. This is the GFS model, a global model. Again, global models have pretty good indication of just overall track and stuff, but they don't have a great indication of intensity. GFS model has us making landfall right around when the HRRR model has it making landfall. So again, very early Monday morning. A little bit after the HRRR though, this is closer to about 5 to 6 in the morning, and eventually moves towards Dallas-Fort Worth, and then it turns to the east very slowly, probably dumping a lot of rain across Texas. And again, there are a couple scenarios long-term with this. One in which the jet stream picks up the remnants basically of Beryl, which would make this a much faster moving system, or the jet stream is just too fast and this actually slows down and kind of occludes down in the southern plains. That's what the GFS model is indicating, and if that happens, that would be worst case scenario when it comes to flooding concerns here across Texas, where many areas could pick up upwards of 4 to 10 inches of rain, and the GFS model has us tracking into eastern North Texas and even into southeast Oklahoma and western Arkansas, where lots of rain will be falling out of this if it does slow down and does not catch up with the jet stream. So that's what that is contingent on at this point. And in addition to that, this is the I was going to show you the wind speeds. Let me go back to the wind speeds here. Again, the GFS model doesn't do a great job in my opinion with intensity, but we'll show you anyways. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't really give you a good indication of wind speeds, but this is a general idea of what the GFS model shows as we go into Monday morning. Again, a landfall near 5 a.m. So again, this will probably happen sometime between midnight all the way maybe closer to like lunchtime. It's going to depend on where it makes landfall, but if this does make landfall just to the east of Corpus Christi, I would expect a much earlier landfall. If it makes landfall closer to Houston, which is a much lower chance at this point, the landfall would be probably closer to lunchtime. All right, so that's what I'm thinking in terms of the intensity and as well as the path of Beryl at this point. Last model I'm going to show you here is the Icon model. This one we've been looking at for a while. It's another global model. This one is really the only one right now that still brings us in the direction of Houston. Let me pull up, let's get a little bit closer here. So this is what it looks like when it gets to Houston. So the icon model has this making landfall near Houston and just to the south of Houston as we go into the very early morning hours on Monday. So again, around 1 to 4 in the morning, moving to the north, going towards Houston. And that would again be more of a worst case scenario for Houston, where the worst of the wind would be hitting those areas near Houston. Let's go to wind speeds here, and I'll give you an indication of what this shows in terms of wind. This is going to put it in knots, so we have to translate that to miles per hour. Generally speaking, this will probably be 65 to 70 mile per hour winds right along the immediate coastline. And then as this moves inland, the winds will be mostly just tropical storm force winds from Houston, and then going back up through areas north of Houston in the suburbs. And eventually, as we go later into Monday, this weakens into a tropical depression, or at least a low-end tropical storm. The icon model in terms of total rainfall accumulation keeps most of the rain east of Dallas-Fort Worth and keeps it mostly anywhere from the Houston area back all the way up into Arkansas, where again a widespread area of rainfall is expected between 2 to 5 inches of rain, and then localized areas, especially near Houston or even near Corpus Christi, will have the potential of picking up upwards of a foot of rainfall, and in some potential cases here we could see more than a foot of rain. I would not rule out up to 18 inches of rain with some of these areas, depending on how these outer bands do interact with this environment as we go into Monday morning. The more of those bands that we get, more than likely we're going to see a lot more rainfall in very localized areas. And again, the HRRR model does a pretty fantastic job picking up on that potential. If we go back to, let's go to local here, let's go back to the, let's go to this. So again, this is kind of what it shows as we go into Monday morning and also into the afternoon hours. Just kind of notice that training band of the training outer band of supercells that we'll see as we go into Monday morning and afternoon. That is where the greater tornado risk will exist, and also that is where the greater flooding risk will exist if those are able to train more as we go into the afternoon. And since the Gulf of Mexico waters, they're right here, it's a moisture source. We're probably going to see a lot of these train from south to north, especially with a northerly moving hurricane. This is going to favor more of a training effect here, probably a localized area of somewhere upwards of 8 to potentially 14 inches of rain, and we could see spots even a bit higher than that. But again, not everybody's going to see that, but there will be some areas that do pick up that much rainfall out of Beryl. And we do have another run from the HRRR model run coming out in like 5 or 6 hours, so it's still quite a ways away, so we'll have more of an indication of what that's showing by then. But again, notice again just this area here that it shows with those outer bands. If this does all train, and again, it's gonna be a localized area, this could be further west, it could be further east, but as long as this does intensify and it does have those outer bands training south to north, we're probably gonna get a pretty significant area of localized flooding, especially across areas maybe even near the Houston metro area. So definitely have to be prepared for that. Again, now is the time to be taking preparations and precautions seriously. As I mentioned a little bit ago, we do officially have mandatory evacuation orders in Refugio County, Texas, which I pointed out on the map here a second ago, but this is the county here. Mandatory evacuations ordered. I don't know the specific details on these, but there are evacuation orders that have been issued here. So if you are in this particular county, definitely make sure that you're checking with local officials and make sure that you're taking evacuation orders seriously, as even though this is only expected right now to be a category 1 hurricane upon landfall, there's a chance, one, it could rapidly intensify by the time it gets closer to land, and it could get to a category 2, or it could even just pose in general significant storm surge up to 6 feet. We could see significant flooding in that area, and hurricane force winds are still going to be a possibility. And we also have an official forecast on storm surge, by the way. Here's the storm surge forecast from the National Hurricane Center. So right now, up to 4 feet of storm surge expected near Houston and Galveston Bay. And then back over near the Matagorda Bay area, we're expecting up to 5 feet of storm surge. And then back near Baffin Bay, near the Corpus Christi Bay, you can expect 5 feet of storm surge in that area as well. So again, a pretty long stretch here of upwards of 5 feet of storm surge. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a spot in here, though, that gets a little bit closer to 6 feet, if this is able to intensify a bit more with stronger wind speeds. But nonetheless, I do think the worst of the storm surge will probably be right in this area here. If the eye is able to make landfall, let's just say right to the east of Corpus Christi, we're going to get that offshore flow, and then we'll eventually see some very significant winds pulling tons of water from south to north, going right into areas like Matagorda Bay. So again, lots of scenarios still in terms of localized scenarios, but the general gist at this point is that if you are anywhere in the warnings or watches, you need to make sure that you're taking proper precautions now and getting ready for Tropical Storm Beryl, which again is expected to be a hurricane upon landfall, as this does continue to move to the north and northwest here over the next several hours. And again, landfall right now is expected very late tomorrow night into early Monday morning. It is obviously a pretty solid time frame at this point. Initially, we didn't really know when this might make landfall, but we are getting more certainty now that this will be making landfall here in parts of South Texas as early as late tomorrow night, which again, that would be probably sometime around or just after midnight. So when I say late tomorrow night, we're not talking about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. All right, that's not nighttime. It might be nighttime for you, but it's not nighttime in general. So again, when we're talking about late night, we're talking anywhere after sunset predominantly, and that'd be after 10 o'clock. So right now, my forecasted landfall for this, it depends on the track still. I mean, again, if it goes further to the west, which is unlikely at this point, but if it made landfall, like let's just say south of Corpus Christi, landfall could actually be as early as tomorrow, like evening. It could be sometime around 5 or 6 o'clock. But also, if it goes further to the north, towards like Galveston, for example, or Houston, landfall might be as late as early Monday morning, sometime maybe around 5 or 6 in the morning. So, but I do think overall the main time frame that we are expecting this to make landfall will be between about 11 p.m. tomorrow night until about 4 or 5 a.m. Monday morning. As of now, I am not sure what our plans are right now for live streaming. I have really no clue because there are lots of aspects to this when it comes to landfall. We have obviously landfall itself, which will be probably late tomorrow night. And then we have the tornado risk, which is going to be Monday, which will probably be pretty much all day. So I'm not entirely sure what our plans for live streaming are quite yet. But again, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Again, if you are on our Facebook page watching this stream, I highly recommend just subscribing to YouTube. The link is in the description. And we're also streaming on YouTube right now as well. And make sure to subscribe because we'll be doing live streams from here on out just on YouTube. So Facebook is not going to have any more live streams after, I think, today. We might have another stream tonight for the next update, but yeah, so if you're watching on Facebook, just go to our YouTube page and subscribe. All right, let's get to some questions. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the chat. We do have a new National Hurricane Center update coming out right at 4 o'clock Central Time, so we are just awaiting that right now. And we should have another update on the cone of uncertainty and perhaps even an update on intensity here soon. Got a little bit more convection now bubbling up on the northern side of Beryl, so again, more storms starting to blow up here. I would anticipate this to continue to be a trend here pretty much for the next several hours. Again, lots of strong, still a lot of wind shear in this area, so weakening is still not really happening, but it's just kind of staying where it's at right now. It's not intensifying much. It's not really weakening much right now. If anything, it's just gradually intensifying. But there's a lot of dry air here and still a lot of wind shear, so it's still struggling quite a bit right now when it comes to intensity. All right, well, we already have our National Hurricane Center update, so I guess we're going to do that first. We officially have hurricane warnings now issued for Texas, so that's the first thing to talk about here. So the National Hurricane Center update just came out. They're always early. It's actually 17 minutes early today. I want to point out right off the bat, no intensification. So it's still at the same level. It is still at maximum sustained winds of 60 miles per hour, pressure of 997. None of that is shocking, by the way. We have been expecting this the entire time. We are not surprised by this not being any intenser at this point. It's expected today. All right. So that is not surprising by any means. We're going to get some details, though. We do have hurricane warnings that have just been issued for parts of Texas. All right, so again, right now, minimum central pressure, 997 millibars, maximum sustained winds at 60 miles per hour. This is currently 385 miles to the southeast of Corpus Christi. This is moving to the west-northwest at 13 miles per hour right now. A hurricane warning is now in effect for the Texas coast from Baffin Bay northward to Sargent. All right, so that's the latest. We now have a hurricane warning in effect for parts of Texas. And again, that's the Texas coast from Baffin Bay back towards Sargent. That's the first order of business. And this will all update on the map here soon, just an FYI. So we'll show it on the map here soon. All right, and then the next order of business here is that a tropical storm warning is now in effect for the Texas coast from north of Sargent to High Island. I believe that is just to the south of Houston. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll see those on the map here in a second. Next up, storm surge warning has also just been issued from the north entrance of Padre Island National Seashore, northward of San Luis Pass, including Corpus Christi Bay and Matagorda Bay. So again, storm surge warning for those areas, with storm surge currently forecasted to be upwards of 5 feet of storm surge right along the immediate coastline. Let's go to here. Let me pull up the storm surge map, wherever it might have gone. I don't know if I have it pulled up. Let me pull it up real quick. This is the Storm Surge map. Oh, actually, it got upgraded. Okay. So we actually have an upgrade on Storm Surge. So this is actually upgraded from before. We now have up to 6 feet of Storm Surge being forecasted, which I actually just mentioned this possibility like a few minutes ago. But this is now official. We actually have now an forecast at least up to 6 feet of Storm Surge from Mesquite Bay back to Sargent. So up to 6 feet of Storm Surge is expected, which means areas along the immediate coastline, you need to make sure that you are taking evacuation orders seriously. Because again, storm surge like this will definitely start to fill in water on the first floor of a building, especially if you're right on the beach. If you're a little bit more inland, it's a little bit of a different story. It might vary a little bit. I would highly recommend going to the National Hurricane Center website and going to their storm surge map to be able to give you an idea of what you need to be, where you might need to be evacuating, because they have a full-blown map of where you should be evacuating and like where will you actually see storm surge. This is what the map looks like for reference. So again, it shows like the immediate coastal areas with where the significant storm surge will be up to 6 feet. Again, this is a great source to be able to, give yourself an idea of if you have to evacuate or not. But even near like Odom and Corpus Christi, we are going to at least see some storm surge in those areas that'll come inland. At least that's what's forecasted. In addition to that, 2 to 4 feet of storm surge in the forecast on the mouth of Rio Grande back to the north entrance of Padre Island. And then in Corpus Christi Bay, 5 feet of storm surge currently in the forecast. Galveston Bay, upwards of 4 feet of storm surge currently in the forecast as well. And then even into now southwestern Louisiana, we have up to 3 feet of storm surge being a possibility there. So obviously, avoid the beaches. This should just be common knowledge, but don't go to the beach because it's going to get pretty dangerous by tomorrow. And it's already getting pretty dangerous out there. I mean, we already have storm surge and higher wave heights, but obviously this is an upgrade from before for tomorrow and then eventually into Monday for this particular threat. Let's see. There's a lot of updates here. I'm just going over some of the watches and warnings first on this new update. If you're just tuning in, new National Hurricane Center update just came in. This is all brand new information as of moments ago. So storm surge has been upgraded in terms of the forecast. Okay, the watches and warnings aside from that are pretty much the same. You will see them popping up on the map here in a second, so we will show you that here soon. We do have an update on the discussion, so we're going to mention that, or we're going to talk about that here in a second. After a quick drink of water. All right. So this is the latest from the National Hurricane Center on Beryl. So Beryl's convective organization has increased since the last advisory, with a ragged band forming in the western semicircle. However, this band is best organized around what appears to be a mid-level center to the north and northeast of the low-level cluster, which again means that there's still a lot of wind shear here. We alluded to this earlier, but you can see the spin on Beryl right now. This is the convection. The center of where this actually is, where Beryl is kind of buried in here. It's actually not really, I mean, it might actually be a little bit further north now, but it's actually, yeah, it's going to be a bit further north, actually. They actually just updated this. So that's actually the area of the new center is actually going to be a bit further to the north. So we have another shift to the north again with Beryl. This thing has been shifting north so many times. It's unbelievable. It's actually, the center is going to be right about here now. It's actually going to be in the middle of the convection. At least that's what they are mentioning now. This is kind of crazy because the amount of northern jogs that we've had with Beryl has been insane. We've had a lot in the last 48 hours, ever since this got closer to the Yucatan. And it seems like the area of circulation now is actually going to be on the either near that convection or just to the right of that convection. So it's going to be probably right in there. It's still not super definitive on the infrared imagery. If we go to satellite, we'll probably have a better view of that. Let's go to satellite. Yeah, so this is actually where it is. It's actually on the east side of it. This is where the convection is. So again, it's still off-centered from where the eye of Beryl currently is. And again, you can just see the effect of the wind shear. All of these low-level clouds on the outskirts, that gives you an indication of how much shear there's been in this area, in addition to dry air. So that's been a problem with Beryl here for a while, but shear, again, is expected to decrease as this gets closer to Texas, and it's also the overall dry air is not going to be as much of a factor by tomorrow, which is why we still think this is going to be intensifying. All right, here's some other updates from the National Hurricane Center. Earlier, aircraft data indicated the maximum sustained winds were near 50 knots, which is almost 60 miles per hour, and the center pressure was at the 997 to 999 millibar range. Since And since that time, various objective intensity estimates have shown very little change. So again, there hasn't really been any intensification despite there being a lot more convection. Again, convection does not equal intensification. It is a big misconception that's been going around on Twitter, even ever since this was making landfall near the Yucatan. Convection does not always indicate intensification. In this case, it's at least looking healthier, we can say that, but again, it's not a direct correlation to this being more intense when it comes to wind speed and pressure. All right, and then let's see what else here. The initial motion is about 310 degrees, which is still west-northwest at about 11 knots, so about 13 miles per hour. So again, this is starting to slow down still. It's been slowing down for the last several days. It was at 1.22 miles per hour. Now it's down to 13 miles per hour, moving west-northwest. Beryl should move northwestward over the next 24 hours or so, then gradually turn to the north and move into the break. In the break of the subtropical or the mid-latitude trough it'll open into the break of the subtropical ridge over Texas. I kind of skipped that line, but basically they're saying this is going to turn north once it gets closer to Texas. In simplistic terms, this will start to turn north as it gets closer to the Texas coast. Again, somewhere between Corpus Christi and Houston is where that is currently forecasted to occur. Cone of uncertainty has taken another notable shrinkage, it looks like. We're going to compare and contrast that in a second, but it's shrunk down a little bit more again. But again, we'll talk about that after I read through the discussion. I keep getting sidetracked. This motion should lead to the cyclone making landfall on the Texas coast between the next 36 to 48 hours. So again, this is expected to make landfall in Texas more than likely by very early Monday morning. So either late Sunday night or early Monday morning is when you can expect the landfall in Texas. Recurvature to the northeast is expected after 60 hours, which is what it shows long term. This will just be the remnants of Beryl, or it'll be a tropical depression. Either one, it's not going to be as impressive, but it will continue to bring rain and probably tornadoes on the eastern and central side of Beryl as this moves throughout areas in the Mississippi Valley. As long as it can stay organized and it can catch the jet stream, that is in play. If it slows down a lot more, then I don't think we'll have much of a threat up that direction. Again, I wouldn't be concerned if you're in those areas. Just something to watch for in the long term. There's an unwarned tornado in Nebraska. Let me check that out real quick. There actually might be near Minden right now. That might be a tornado. It's east of Minden. Oh, Ryan Scholl catch that? Dude, Ryan Scholl's been... I think Ryan Scholl's the only chaser in the state of Nebraska right now. There's literally nobody out there. Yeah, there actually was. Yeah, so near Minden, Nebraska, we just had a brief tornado, at least. There might still be on the ground, though. There's a very tiny debris signature near Senator Carl Curtis Road, and there's currently no tornado warning on this. We'll go back to the hurricane in a second. I'm waiting for this radar scan. We'll check it out. We'll just wait a second. All right, let me get through this discussion real quick. But if you're in Minden, get to your safe place in Nebraska. I was actually debating whether to do severe weather coverage today. I was close to doing it, but I thought Beryl was a bigger deal, really. All right, let's see. This is also what they said. While this... All right, so there's been a little bit of northward shift in the guidance and track, due mainly to a more northward initial position. While this has produced only a small change in the forecast landfall location, the landfall time is now a few hours earlier than the previous advisory. So that's actually good news in a way. So if this makes landfall earlier, that would be better news for really... Okay, so there's now observed tornado in Nebraska. So just letting you know. Observed tornado, this was just observed moments ago in Nebraska. Wow, that's a big debris signature. That right there it's going pretty much through rural areas, but just northwest of Norman, you have a tornado on the ground there. Pretty sizable debris signature right there east of Minden. The rotation has occluded a little bit, but tornado might still be on the ground in that little mess. So if you're in the pink polygon, that's Adams in Kearney County, Nebraska. Get to your safe place. All right, so what I was saying is that it's actually good news that Beryl is going to be slowing down, or is actually going at least a little bit further to the north, because what that means is that this will be making landfall a bit earlier than forecasted. It was originally forecasted to make landfall closer to lunchtime on Monday. It is now forecasted to make landfall basically around midnight, Sunday night into early Monday morning. So that's at least some good news here when it comes to Beryl. Bad news still does exist, because obviously this is still trying to intensify, and there is a potential that we still see a brief rapid intensification as this approaches the coast of Texas. While Beryl remains in an area of southerly vertical wind shear and mid to upper level dry air, the convection has been persistent during the last several hours. The shear is now forecasted to decrease by Sunday morning, which should allow Beryl to re-intensify, as shown by all other guidance. The intensity forecast calls for Beryl to regain hurricane status by Sunday or Sunday night and reach an intensity around 75 knots near the time of landfall. This intensity is based on regional hurricane models, which have shown landfall intensities between 65 and 85 knots, which again, translating that to miles per hour, would be around 70-75 miles per hour, up closer to even maybe 100 miles per hour. After that, it is expected to weaken as it moves inland. All right, let's talk more about the cone of uncertainty and what has changed there, because there have been some changes here to the overall track of or like the small change to the cone of uncertainty. So the cone of uncertainty no longer is even close to Louisiana, so that's ruled out entirely. It was something that was initially in play, but it's fully ruled out basically at this point. But again, that cone of uncertainty has shifted a bit further to the east, so landfall basically closer to Brownsville, that's ruled out. So this has shifted a little bit further to the east, and also this has shifted further back to the west, meaning that the confidence in landfall between areas like Corpus Christi back to Houston has increased substantially at this point. It's very likely that we are going to see landfall in those areas. Currently, the National Hurricane Center has a maximum sustained wind speed upon landfall at around 85 to 95 miles per hour. This is just offshore, so this is still going to be south of where it makes landfall. It's at 85 miles per hour, which leads me to believe upon landfall, this will probably be very close to a low-end Category 2 hurricane, as it makes landfall somewhere between Corpus Christi back closer to Lake Jackson. Port Lavaca is where I think this will be probably tracking towards. Basically, the middle of this line is where there's a bit more confidence in landfall, but again, it could go anywhere in this cone of uncertainty. So you need to be preparing as if the hurricane's going to be making landfall in your location if you are in the cone of uncertainty, because the most significant flooding threat will exist in those areas. There will be a significant storm surge threat, and in addition to that, we'll have the potential for some hurricane force winds in those areas as well. And then the tornado outbreak potential will definitely be on the eastern side of the cone of uncertainty. Looks like that debris signature, by the way, is kind of gone now on the storm that's currently been warned for being on the ground here, just along and south of 634 Road in Nebraska. So just letting you know. But could still drop another one. The RFD surge is crazy on that storm. We'll keep a close eye on it. If it does go PDS, we'll cover it. But it doesn't look. It looks like more of an RFD surge again. All right. Well, that's the forecast. Now we're gonna go to questions. I was gonna do that before, but the National Hurricane Center update came out a little bit early. So let's get to some questions. If you have questions, feel free to leave those in the chat. And again, if you're watching us on Facebook, you can watch us on YouTube. The link's in the description. Feel free to share the stream with your friends and family. It is a pretty good update overall. I think we've got everything that you need to know down in the last 40 minutes, and I think most of it happened in the first like 10 minutes. So thank you, Illinois, for becoming a 1-month member. Thank you, Echo, as well. Thank you, Bobby, for becoming a member. Thank you, Christy, for the 1 gifted. Thank you, Skater, for the $5 super chat. Galveston. Am I not saying it right? Thank you, Claudia, for becoming a member. Thank you, Taco, for the 1 month. Thank you, Smith, for the $4.99. Speaking of tornadoes, can you check on the storms in Nebraska? Yeah, I mean, this storm near Minden, it looks like it did have a tornado. I don't think it does anymore. I think it's more of an RFD surge right now. It could be trying to recycle. But, I mean, if this was in a more, like... I don't really see this as on the ground anymore. It probably was. But it might drop again. It could recycle. So... This storm up here near Hastings kind of looks weird too, but that just might be it's kind of near the outflow boundary. That might still, I mean, it might still be on the ground. It just doesn't look clear on radar. So if you're in the warning, obviously stay in your safe place, away from windows, and on the lowest floor possible. Thank you, Geek, for the $5 super chat. Yeah, Memphis will probably get some sort of rain out of Beryl. To some extent. I think you're gonna get some rain up there. Thank you, Corey, for becoming a 6-month member. How's it going from St. Petersburg, Florida? Thank you, Unbiased Potato, becoming an 11th-month member. Appreciate that. Thank you, Saved, for the $1.99. Will San Antonio Airport get tornadoes? I'm guessing SAT means San Antonio Airport. So if you're talking about San Antonio, I don't really think we're gonna get tornadoes over there. Again, I think overall the tornado threat will be on the central part and eastern side of this hurricane. So wherever it makes landfall, the tornadoes will be mostly to the east of that. And let me take off the infrared imagery here. So right now, the tornado threat as we go into tomorrow is primarily going to be from Houston back towards Corpus Christi, where we do have a large 2 and 5% tornado risk. Anywhere from Kingsville and Corpus Christi back towards Houston, League City, Galveston, and Beaumont. That is where the potential for a few tornadoes will exist tomorrow night. And then once we go into Monday, that threat will shift a bit further up to the east, where the main concern for a few tornadoes will be anywhere near Houston, Beaumont, and Galveston, where we will have training supercells. I really think that if confidence grows here, we could see a 10% tornado risk added to areas near Houston. I wouldn't even be shocked if it went moderate, but that doesn't usually happen with hurricanes. With that said, I do think there's going to be a much higher chance of tornadoes near Houston if we do get that training supercell effect that the HRRR model was presenting on the latest run. So definitely something to keep in mind. But aside from that, the tornado threat for both Sunday and Monday is really all we know. Tuesday is going to be very dependent on where Beryl is and how fast it's going. We don't really know yet what's going to happen with that. So just keep that in mind. This is, by the way, the Radar Omega Cyclone port. They have one back over south of Houston. And just some towering cumulus clouds there. We have a few thunderstorms that have been in the area this afternoon. A lot of tropical moisture, obviously, in this particular area. This is what it looks like right now. Just a lot of convective activity around Houston. Again, a lot of this is just thunderstorm activity, nothing really severe at this point, but all outflow driven. Lots of moisture in the area. And by the way, Beryl is actually able to be picked up now by reflectivity from the furthest southern radar site here in Texas. So we actually already have a view now of Beryl just purely on radar back over here in the western Gulf of Mexico. You got some of these outer bands here that are just kind of circling. And again, your center is going to be right about here. Again, not a fantastic view, but you at least got a view right now of Beryl. Really cannot get much better than this. Let's go to marine tools. Let's go to buoys. We also have a couple of buoys here. This is a buoy that's south of Beryl, and this one's not really showing anything too crazy right now when it comes to wave heights. We also have one north of it. It's a little bit more dark. It's not as good of a picture. Pretty low wave heights on the outskirts. I mean, those two buoys, they're pretty far away from where Beryl is, so that's kind of to be expected, but let me go back to Nebraska real quick. Again, this tornado was on the ground. I'm pretty sure it has occluded and it's trying to recycle. As mentioned before, it was on the ground, but it is becoming a bit more outflow dominant, and that area of rotation is in the inflow. It does not look as impressive as before, but if you are in the tornado warning, again, get to your safe place, away from windows, lowest floor possible, and in an interior room of your home or building. If you're anywhere just around and north of Norman, you're Holstein, Hartwell, and off to the east and east-northeast of Minden. But that is, as of right now, I don't think it's on the ground anymore, but the RFD search looked crazy on it, so. Also, somebody just asked, my grandparents live in Port Lavaca. Is that still where it's forecast to make landfall? I mean, that's right now where the highest confidence is of landfall. I'm thinking that you're at least going to see hurricane force winds to some extent. This is the forecasted wind field from Beryl. So we're going to go over to the tropical current wind field. Or actually, no, let's do forecasted. My bad. Well, let's go to forecasted. We could see tornadoes in the College Station area, but again, it's a little bit uncertain really past tomorrow, or past Monday, I mean. If you get any tornadoes, it'd probably be Monday, but even then, I'd still think it's a low chance of you actually seeing anything like that. Well, here are the probabilities of hurricane force winds, and that primarily goes up to the Gulf Coast, so just south and east of Victoria. Let's go over to tropical. Let's do... Okay, they don't have... They not have intent... Do they have the projected track intensity? I thought they did. But maybe they don't. Never mind. I was going to show you the wind field and what's forecasted to be when it makes landfall, but it's going to be a relatively small area for hurricane force winds. With that said, Port Lavaca, at the bare minimum, you're at least going to get probably some flooding rainfall, so upwards of 4 to 10 inches of rain. And then in addition to that, there will be a potential for some storm surge in the area. So if you're right along the immediate coastline and evacuation orders are issued, definitely make sure that you're taking those seriously. And then beyond that, tornadoes will be pretty much all off to your east if there are any. And then, yeah, that's really the main concern. But right now, the HRRR model has us making landfall right around 2 or 3 in the morning on Monday, which is interesting. I really don't know what our plans are yet for landfall. This is kind of a weird... It's a weird hurricane, or it's going to be a hurricane, but when it's a hurricane, it's going to be a weird hurricane. It's really, like, this hurricane... I was talking to Connor Croft about this, too. Like, this just does not... This just feels like a very mid sort of hurricane, in my opinion. Like, I think it's going to cause a lot of damage, especially when it comes to storm surge, flooding, and all that. But, like, just covering this, it's going to be so hard to cover it because we have so many aspects to it. We have the landfall, which is going to be mostly storm surge, you know, flooding, rainfall, that sort of stuff. And then beyond that, it's going to be the outer bands that are going to produce tornadoes as we go into Monday, and maybe some more flooding. It's such a weird kind of situation, because this is like, it's a category 1. We usually don't or really cover category 1 hurricanes, and this might be a category 2 upon landfall. It's a weird hurricane. Obviously, its history was up to a category 5, which was insane. Just covering this is going to be very weird. I'm not sure what our schedule is at all. Like, usually I would have an idea, but I have none at all. Tornado warning was downgraded to radar indicated. Yes, it was. It was just downgraded a few minutes ago. It's no longer observed. I honestly, I think it's occluded entirely. Or it's at least trying to recycle it, at the very least. Yeah, that rotation's dying out pretty quickly. But we have a new tornado on the ground near Hastings, I believe. Near Hastings, Nebraska, we're about to have another tornado on the ground. I kind of wish we held off on doing this update, because I probably could have gone live for this. Looks like we have a new tornado dropping in Hastings. And this is not warned right now. This is kind of crazy that we have another tornado, though. I mean, like, this setup looked predominantly just like rain, but we've had a lot of, like, storms with hail, but we've had a lot of discrete supercells today, and this is another one. Which this one's going to be on the ground if it's not already. Near Hastings, Nebraska. There's no tornado warning on this. Probably an unwarned tornado. We don't have anything, you know, official, but... Debris signature hasn't popped up on that yet, but we'll keep a close eye on it. That tornado, I mean, that storm, I think that tornado is probably on the ground. Crazy. We'll go back to it once the next radar update comes in. Check Twitter. Okay. Friendly reminder, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Like the stream as well. And we'll be having frequent Beryl updates over the next several days. Obviously, as this will be making landfall late tomorrow night into early Monday morning. I don't know how the other one hasn't been warned yet. Like, how is this storm not... Well, I mean, that's a debris signature. I think we just had another tornado briefly touch down on the northwest side of Hastings. I think what we're seeing on the debris signature here is just the remnants of that tornado. So that we just had another tornado. This one didn't get warned either. And this is a classic looking supercell too. I think after this we'll be mostly looking at wind, but Looks like we just had another tornado drop here. Any chances of tornadoes in Oklahoma tomorrow? There is a chance for tornadoes. It's not a super high chance, but there will be a chance for a couple of tornadoes. Again, I don't know how we're gonna be doing live streams. I honestly, today I probably should have just done severe weather coverage to start and then did a live update. I wasn't planning on going live at all for severe weather today, but it seems like it's been very interesting from what I've been seeing. Apparently there was a large, possibly wedge tornado briefly on the ground near Minden, Nebraska. I'm trying to go on Twitter and find this. Yeah. That's a big. I retweeted the photo on Twitter at MaxVelocityWX. Huge tornado in Minden, Nebraska, not too long ago. It apparently was not warned either. Thank you, House of Arrows, for the $9.99. We live between Austin and Waco. Been told on the west side is the dry side. Is this true? Really, the south and I mean, like when this makes landfall, I'm guessing that's what you're asking about, not like right now. When it makes landfall, it will be the dry side. Technically, that's usually how hurricanes go. So if this takes a track right into areas east of Corpus Christi, makes landfall near Port Lavaca, I think your rainfall is going to be very minimal. Because again, the eye wall is really the area where rain will be happening on the west side of Beryl. If it goes further to the west, though, you can expect a lot more rain. It's going to be very 50-50. I personally think you're not going to get much, honestly. And honestly, Dallas-Fort Worth, I don't think we're going to see much rain up there unless this tracks further to the north than currently forecasted. Which, again, the cone of uncertainty does include the area, so if it does go right through Dallas-Fort Worth, we can expect a lot of rain. But we also might not see really any rain at all if it tracks further right down the middle of this cone or goes further to the east. So that's my thinking at this point. This area of rotation near Norman and Hartwell, that has, looks like occluded. The one northwest of Hastings, Nebraska, velocities have not yet updated, but that rotation does not appear to be as strong as before. So that's probably occluding. We apparently have a tornado possible label in Vermont, too. I don't know what's going on today, but the weather continues to stay weird here in 2024. Will Northwest Louisiana see tornadoes? If you get any, it would probably be going to Tuesday and not Monday. I think better shot for a tornado threat will be on Tuesday. If it tracks more to the west, will Kansas City see rainfall? No. I highly doubt it goes that far to the west. Just lost power in Houston? Really? It's probably not weather related. Actually, it might be. There are storms in the area of Houston, but it's mostly just gusty winds and lightning. Mainly just south of Houston. All outflow driven storms right now. How's it going, Candace? Would there be a tornado outbreak possible in DFW? I don't expect a tornado outbreak that far to the north. Again, the main concern when it comes to tornadoes will be on the east and north side of wherever Beryl goes. If it goes right down the middle of the cone of uncertainty, which is a bit higher of confidence at this point, the main tornado risk for the next several days will be in this area. So primarily Sunday, Monday, and even early Tuesday. Anything past Monday night into early Tuesday is very uncertain, though. We could see tornadoes happen back over maybe northwest Louisiana, southwest Arkansas, and northeast Texas. We also, if it goes further to the west on this line, we could even see some tornadoes back over in eastern North Texas. But again, it's highly contingent on the track, but I don't think there's really that much of a chance for a quote-unquote tornado outbreak in Dallas-Fort Worth at this point. I would not be too concerned about that. All right, this storm near Minden, all outflow driven, is all wind for right now. And then also the storm near Hastings in Nebraska, that is all back to mostly just wind and hail. That one does not, I mean, I think we just had a brief unwarned tornado, but it looks like that's already occluded. So for those that are in Nebraska right now, that's the latest update on those storms. What is the worst case scenario for Houston? If it goes right into Houston, that's basically worst case scenario. With that said, I mean, worst case scenario in this case is not like a category 5 hurricane. All right, a lot of people think worst case scenario is category 5 hurricane plus or whatever. And honestly, no. Category 6 hurricane, that's also not worst case scenario. If you see anything on TikTok or Twitter about a category 5 plus hurricane going to Texas, it is not even in the forecast, so don't think that that stuff's real. Right now, worst case scenario though is that this goes right into Houston. This is the HRRR model run. And even if it doesn't go into Houston, even if it just stays to your west, you're still going to get that offshore wind that's going to be coming inland, and that's going to be able to allow for more storm surge right along the coastline. So even if it does stay west, you're still getting significant impacts. But as we go into Sunday night and eventually into early Monday morning, this will eventually move to the north towards Victoria and Columbus, with the eye of circulation probably staying to the north and east of Corpus Christi. And then as we go into Monday morning, that potential for tornadoes will ramp up here near Houston. And again, that is where we'll be watching for the potential for maybe even several tornadoes. Again, we could have a tornado outbreak, but again, if this goes even a bit further to the east and it goes into Houston, these impacts that are going to be happening near Victoria on the HRRR model run would basically go over closer to Houston. So the impacts overall would be further east. They wouldn't be really any different, maybe slightly more intense because it would be over the open Gulf of Mexico ocean waters for a bit more time. It's still a pretty favorable environment for Sunday because of lower wind shear, less dry air. It'll be a more favorable environment for Beryl to develop. That's what the HRRR model shows in terms of wind speeds as we go into late Sunday night and early Monday morning. Wind gusts currently forecasted to peak around 100 miles per hour or so, according to the HRRR model run. Notice how large the wind field is. It's really not that big in nature. I mean, I say that as, you know, this is not like a huge area. It's still a relatively small radius that we're gonna be looking at hurricane force winds, but wherever it does make landfall, we can probably expect those hurricane force winds to gradually climb all the way up, probably closer to the interstate here connecting San Antonio and Houston. And then after that, it'll probably just be mostly tropical storm force winds. But you can kind of think of this, once it gets closer to Houston, as more of a severe thunderstorm almost that's just happening for a long amount of time. So that's basically what will happen once it gets closer to the interstate. But the HRRR model has the worst of the wind making, or right now the worst of it making landfall northeast of Corpus Christi. If we go back to the model run from 6 hours ago, which is not really as relevant, but I'm just going to show you anyway, and had it making landfall just to the east of Corpus Christi, like barely. So the most recent run from the HRRR model run, which is a pretty good model for really tracking hurricanes and tropical storms within a certain time frame, like 36 or 48 hours, it shows it actually a bit more to the north and east now. So landfall has changed a little bit with Beryl, but regardless, I still think landfall is probably going to be happening near Port Lavaca. If it does make landfall near Houston, again, it's a bit worse because, again, we'll have more time for this to intensify, and I think there's a better chance that this is a Category 2 hurricane if it goes up the right side of the cone of uncertainty, which is this right here. There's a tornado warning in Hastings now. Well, they kind of issued that a little bit after I think the tornado happened. Yeah, now it doesn't look as impressive anymore. I mean, back a few minutes ago, I'm pretty sure this was on the ground, at least briefly. This is back over near Hastings. Like, this was back when it wasn't even warned at 406. This was on the ground, I think, for at least a minute or two. Now it's just a large, broad area of circulation near Hastings, Nebraska. And the other warning got canceled, by the way. Again, if you're in that warning, obviously seek shelter. But it's not as intense looking as before. All right, let's go back to here. Again, we are just answering questions right now on Beryl, so if you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the chat. Again, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We'll have frequent updates on Beryl over the next several days. This live update will probably last for a little bit longer, then we'll have another one tonight, I'm thinking. So, I'm not sure when, but we'll have another live update tonight. We'll probably just have 2 today. I am a little bit, I'm not really sick, but my voice is a little bit sore at least, so I'm not probably going to do super long live streams. I'm going to try to preserve my voice in case I do start to lose it, because looks like tomorrow we might be live for a pretty good amount of time, so. All right, thank you, Iljin, for becoming a 2-month member. Thank you, Claudia, for the 199. I'm currently still in college. I'm not going to say which one, but I am studying meteorology. I am very close to graduating. Thank you, Greg, for the $2 super chat. Thoughts on Bastrop? I don't know where that is. I'm guessing we're talking about Texas. So Bastrop, Texas, that's near Austin. I think right now the main concern would just be flooding rains, if that even happens there. Again, if it takes a track more up the left side of the cone of uncertainty, you'd expect more of a threat for flooding rains. If it takes more of a track up the right side of the cone of uncertainty, or even down the middle, I think it'll be less of a threat when it comes to rainfall. It'll be mostly just tropical storm force winds if it takes a more of a track to basically the east of this cone of uncertainty. That's what I'm expecting currently in terms of impacts. Thank you, Douglas, for becoming a member, and welcome to the Velocities. Get some water. I've been drinking water. Are you going live tonight? I will likely be live tonight. I don't know what time. But I'll probably have another update tonight. And then tomorrow we'll probably have another couple updates. Possibly even live coverage. If this makes landfall as early as now forecasted, which is right now late tomorrow night, we'll probably be live for landfall, and then we'll be live for the tornado threat Monday. Because that's kind of where it's trending right now. I don't think we'll be live overnight Sunday night into Monday morning, though. I just don't see a reason to. Unless there's still a lot of stuff happening. Thank you, Bear, for becoming a member, or gifting a member, sorry. There's a big tornado in Vermont. Let me check this out real quick. I don't see anything clear here. Wow, base velocities have a really strong rotation, though. It might be on the ground. This is kind of a tough radar, though, because of how mountainous it is. You're in that warning, obviously, be in your safe place. This isn't really severe weather coverage, so we're not going to be talking much about severe weather. With that said, it's possible that we do a live stream for severe weather if this stays up with what it's doing right now. I don't think it will, but it's pretty crazy what we're seeing up there today. This is a rare occasion where I'm not live for a slight risk for severe weather. I mean, it was a small 2% today, but NATOcast had it at 5%. Really looked like a pretty nice setup today with discrete supercells. Tomorrow we might even be live for Oklahoma severe weather. I don't know. We'll see. There's literally only one storm chaser out there, though, right now that I know of that's chasing that threat. There's literally nobody else. It's quite literally unbelievable. Everybody's chasing Beryl. Everybody's chasing Beryl. I think Connor is going to be chasing Beryl. I'm not sure yet, though. Connor Croft should be. I think Storm Intermedia is going to be. So we'll have multiple storm chasers for Beryl. Which again, we'll begin with live coverage starting tomorrow when it comes to actual coverage of Beryl. But there are already preparations underway in Port Lavaca. Lots of people boarding up windows right now in that area. I don't think we're gonna have anybody live tonight. I could be wrong. Tomorrow we'll be having at least Storm Intermedia for some updates and stuff like that. Yeah, Connor has a pending live stream. He's not sure. I don't really blame him either. I don't really know what's gonna happen here. Again, there's a possibility this rapidly intensifies, but I just don't see it. I see this making landfall as a Category 1 hurricane. If it goes closer to Houston, Category 2. It could be even briefly become a Category 2 near Port Lavaca. I just don't see this being much more than storm surge, flooding, and tornadoes. Like, the wind threat will be there, especially along the immediate coast. After that, it's pretty minimal, though, for the rest of Texas. So, this isn't the same as it used to be, but it is still significant enough to the point where we will at least have the potential for some flooding, rains, storm surge, all that stuff. I mean, everything's possible. It's just one of those kind of scenarios where this isn't as significant as what it could be, which is good news. Because this could easily be a Category 3+ hurricane if we didn't have tons of wind shear and dry air in the Gulf right now. The only tornado warning right now is in Adams County, Nebraska. That rotation is pretty broad right now. Yeah, it's still relatively broad. We even have some anti-cyclonic rotation near on the southwest side of Hastings. Goodness. I even have a land spout trying to develop west of Blue Hill. Wouldn't rule that out either. Some weird stuff happening there. Thank you, Richard, for becoming a member, and welcome to the Velocities, and also thank you, Redwood, for becoming a member, and welcome to the Velocities. So tornado threat is likely not to make it to North Texas? I don't think so. No, I don't think this makes it to North Texas when it comes to a tornado risk, unless it goes towards Dallas. Which, again, that's a very big stretch at this point. I don't think it takes the very outer edge here of this cone of uncertainty all the way up towards Dallas. I just don't see that happening. I don't think it's going to take that long to turn. I think it's going to really turn here closer to areas, like, again, near Port Lavaca. So, like, right here. I think that's where we're going to see landfall. Again, give or take some mileage here. Again, the cone of uncertainty is where this will make landfall. That's at least where it's forecasted to make landfall. I still have a higher... I have more of a feeling that this will make landfall near Port Lavaca, though. Probably end this stream and then set up for a possible severe weather stream. I don't know. I mean, the threat that is happening up here is kind of winding down. Like, this is... we're kind of at the peak already. So this isn't something I would probably go live for at this point. I don't think it's going to be enough. And it's going to be going through more rural areas after this anyways. So it's been pretty crazy, though. I should have gone live for it. I kind of thought about it earlier, but I didn't... I don't know. We don't have any storm chasers up there today. I mean, I probably could have asked Ryan to, you know, see if I could use this feed, but it's fine. It's not a big deal. The tornadoes, that one or two tornadoes that happened up there looked relatively rural anyways, so. Wow. This is the latest update from the National Weather Service of Fort Worth. They currently have the potential for upwards of 6 inches of rain near Palestine and east of Waco, Texas. They have over a 50% chance of greater than 6 inches of rain in those areas, too. That is a lot of rain. And right now having a forecast for Dallas, Fort Worth near, like, nothing. Very little amount of rain. Wild times. Two hurricane hunters have departed for Beryl. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to be live all the way until then, I don't think. But we will be live probably tonight at some point for another update. So we'll have that information probably then. The information that comes from them does take some time. So let me see where they're at right now. This is the Aircon aircraft. Yeah, so you got one airplane right now. It's kind of hard to see, but that's Florida. So one just came out of Tampa. It's going towards Beryl right now. And then we got another one right now that's going out of the Yucatan, maybe? Or no, that's near Houston, I think. Can't tell. I think that's Houston. Yeah, that's near Houston. So, got two airplanes going into Beryl. We'll see if there's any intensification. That's probably going to be at least another hour or two, though, from now until we have any new info. So, still a little ways away. Marissa asked what's my favorite circle flavor. I'll send some. Blue raspberry is my favorite. Or black cherry. Appreciate that. Actually, I got 3 fan mails. I could open them in this stream too. Or I could just wait till later. How wide is Beryl? It's not really that wide right now. I mean, it's maybe like 150 miles. Yeah, it's a little over 150 miles or so. I mean, it's a little bit wider. Like, the convective activity is only about 170 miles wide. If you go from west to east, it's about 300 miles wide. But again, a lot of it's just sheared off right now. Like, this is, the center is right about here. This is all just convection, but again, this is all these are where the outer bands would be like right in here. It's just all pretty much sheared off right now. A lot of it is, at least, so. We have another tornado warning. Quickly check this out. Still a broad area of circulation, but they did issue a new tornado warning near Hastings. Still watch it closely. And if we need to, we can activate a live stream for severe weather, but I think the worst of it's already kind of happening. What's the weather look like in Oklahoma City tomorrow? I will have an update on that either in tonight's live stream or my video tomorrow morning. I don't think it's gonna be bad. I think the storm activity that happens there tomorrow will be primarily in the like late afternoon and early evening. We might actually end up still being live for, like, we'll have live coverage tomorrow. I don't know for how long or when, but we'll probably have Hurricane Beryl coverage because it's probably gonna be a hurricane by tomorrow. We'll have coverage on Beryl for a good chunk of tomorrow, and we might even have some coverage on the Oklahoma threat for tornadoes because there's a low risk up there, so we should at least have some coverage of that. How warm are the Gulf waters? Well, they're over 80 degrees now. Before, they were kind of in a pocket of cold water. They're far. The Beryl is far from that now, so it's plenty warm across the entire Gulf at this point. The warmth, the water warmth is not an issue. The only issue that we really currently have is wind shear and dry air. Aside from that, this is pretty much on path for intensifying to a hurricane. So, you know, the water is not a problem at this point. The amount of time it's going to be over water is a problem as well. I mean, it's only going to be over water now until probably tomorrow night. And that's, if that. I mean, it won't be over water for an extremely long period of time. It's going to make landfall late tomorrow night into early Monday morning. And then after that, it's over land. So the only intensification that could happen from here on out would be pretty much just to the southwest of Houston. No problem, JC. My hometown, Wisconsin, we got 6 inches of rain in 2 hours. There was actually a flash flood emergency up in Wisconsin. I don't know if it was because of a dam failure or something, but there was actually a flash flood emergency up there. Thank you, Kitten, for the $5 super chat. It has more to do with the different steering features in the upper levels, like the jet stream and the ridge back over to the east. Those are really the two steering factors with Beryl. So this ridge, depending on its intensity, which it's going to be strong enough to pull this more to the north over time, that ridge that's back over here to the east, that's going to be helping to kind of spin it up here in a clockwise direction, and that'll kind of move it up here into Texas. That's what's going to kind of turn this thing into Texas here over the next 24 hours. Otherwise, if this wasn't here, I mean, Beryl would probably be down here right now. It would be going towards Mexico. Well, this ridge is just strong enough to pull it up into Texas. Now, after this, it's going to catch the jet stream, and then from there, once it catches the jet stream, this will eventually go through parts of the Mississippi Valley, Tennessee and Kentucky being the areas in the track of this, and then from there, it's going to be mostly just rain, some showers and thunderstorms, and then perhaps a few tornadoes. But yeah, like long term, this is not as much of a concern when it comes to, you know, storm surge or something like that, but it will produce at least some showers, some thunderstorms, and then perhaps a few tornadoes, especially on the eastern side of Beryl and wherever that might be, especially if it catches the jet stream. If it catches the jet stream, we're gonna have it again. Beryl will be basically going into the right exit of the jet stream, and that will help to spin up more tornadoes going up the Mississippi Valley and then eventually into Tennessee and Kentucky. Where is she? She's still pretty far to the southeast of Corpus Christi. 385 miles away was the latest update from Corpus Christi. Will I be live until 5? There's not really any reason to be live until 5. I mean, like, I might be, but I'm just saying, like, there isn't any reason. The National Hurricane Center update just came out not too long ago at 4 p.m. Central, which we're now in Central Time, by the way, for National Hurricane Center updates. So just keep that in mind. It is no longer Eastern Time, so these updates are coming out now every 3 hours. Let me change that time. I forgot to change it. So the next update will be at 7 o'clock Central Time. And then after that, the next one's at 10. What can you expect for Houston? Main concern will be tropical storm force winds. Unless it makes landfall closer to Houston, we could see this with some tropical storm force winds. At least prepare. This is how you should be preparing. You should be preparing for this as if it's going to be a hurricane on landfall near Houston. So what you need to be doing is making sure that if you're in Houston that you're preparing for hurricane force winds up to 80 miles per hour. You need to be preparing for storm surge if you're near the coastline. if you're right along the immediate coast and you have evacuation orders, you need to make sure that you are taking those orders seriously. If you have, you know, you make sure you have a tornado action plan in place. I mean, Houston's the area that if this does make landfall near Port Lavaca, the tornado threat will probably be higher locally in areas like Houston. So have a tornado action plan in place for Monday mainly, even Sunday night, but definitely Monday, because Monday looks like it could be a bigger day when it comes to tornadoes. And then, yeah, that's really the main thing that you should be prepared for. Flooding, rains as well. Be prepared for flooding, because flooding will likely be a big issue in Houston. We're gonna have upwards of 6 to 12 inches of widespread rainfall there in South and Southeast Texas. Corpus Christi's kind of the same way, but I don't expect a tornado risk there really at all. But I think we will be live tonight for the 00Z HRRR model run, which is in about 4 hours or so. So we'll probably activate our next live stream around 8 o'clock Central. So we'll have another update then. So again, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, by the way, again, we are live on both Facebook and YouTube at Max Velocity WX on YouTube. The link is also in the description. We are again live streaming to both platforms. After tonight, we will not have any more live coverage, or I don't even know if we'll have live coverage or live update tonight on Facebook, because we might have a storm chaser out there tonight. So we actually might have some updates coming from that tonight. So there is a possibility. I'm not 100% sure yet, but there is a possibility that we do not have a live update on Facebook again tonight. So if you are on Facebook and watching, definitely recommend subscribing to our YouTube. Links in the description. We'll be doing live updates mainly only on YouTube, I think, after this stream. So just letting you know. Go back to here. So this is the HRRR model run. Again, if you're haven't watched the entire stream yet, one thing that I mentioned earlier that is likely to happen is that Beryl will more than likely make landfall northeast of Corpus Christi, and it's probably going to make landfall as a hurricane. That's not new information, but what's a bit new is that landfall right now is expected to be actually a bit earlier than forecasted due to the northerly wobbles that we've had. So landfall can be expected very early Monday morning. This could be as early as midnight tomorrow night, or it could be as late as like lunchtime on Monday. But I think the general consensus now is that landfall will be sometime probably right after midnight Sunday night and early Monday morning. The HRRR model is not a good hurricane model. I actually disagree. I think this is actually a really good model for hurricanes. I used it for Ian and a few others. It's actually very accurate after it's actually in the map, like in the United States map. The problem was last night it was not in the map at all. That was the problem. It was not even in like the coverage area that it has. It only covers North America, or it only covers really the United States. But I heavily disagree. I think this is actually a really good model, at least to show you indication. Rainfall totals can be hit or miss. They usually overestimate or underestimate. There's not usually in between. It's usually overestimate, which in this case, this is probably a little bit of an overestimate, but I still think the HRRR is really good for hurricanes and stuff. This is just like Hurricane Harvey. This is not the same as Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Harvey was much worse when it comes to rainfall. This is more of a really storm surge producer. It will produce flooding. I mean, almost every hurricane that we've ever had produces flooding, but it's not the same as Harvey, because it will be moving faster. Unless something changes last second, this is going to be moving much faster than Harvey. Still nothing crazy right now in the tornado warning cell in Nebraska, if you're curious. Could have a tornado developing, though, south of Blue Hill along the outflow boundary, or a land spout. How long has Max been on? I've been on for an hour and 22 minutes. Trust me, the HRRR model is not good. Again, I disagree. Agree to disagree. I've been forecasting hurricanes for 5 years, which might not sound like a super long time, but I mean, like, we've been doing this since 2019. I've used the HRRR model runs for a while, and they've been pretty accurate in the short term, so I actually think it's one of the better models. You could also use something like the HWRF, which is, I mean, not super different, but this is also what that shows. It actually shows it a bit more intense as it moves towards Corpus Christi by early Monday morning. And this is the run from about almost 12 hours ago now. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. Let me go back a little bit here. Kind of see how it just spins, though, up towards Corpus Christi. Again, this is just another model run. I still think the HRRR model run is pretty solid. I do think this can make landfall either in Corpus Christi or Port Lavaca. I'm not ruling out Houston, but I think it's a lower chance now. I don't think it's going to turn as much to the east as originally thought it might. The graph is superior. The graph actually can be good. It actually can. This is the HMON model, which I have never actually used up until now. Which this one shows it as a landfall near Corpus Christi as well. And again, this was the run from a little while ago. We don't have the new run. This is from the 12Z run. So this is when the eye was actually, I mean, this one, the eye was a little bit further south. So something to keep in mind. Thank you, Fishing, for becoming a member, and welcome to the Velocities. The Icon model brought it towards Houston. I'm not a huge fan of the Icon, but the Icon's been extremely consistent on bringing this to Houston. Like, extremely. I'm pretty sure every run the Icon model's had, it has gone towards Houston. Yeah, it's still going to Houston. It brings it inland as a 985, 982 millibar Hurricane, which would be Category 1. This is the 12Z run. It still brings it in the direction of Houston. Let's go back to Friday. This is the Thursday night run. Even Thursday night, it brought it to Houston. Literally every run the Icon models had, it has brought it to Houston, basically, or at least just to the south of Houston. So, I mean, again, every model's different. Every model has their benefits. It's just, in my opinion, you know, I still think the HRRR model runs pretty good. On Warren rotation in Quinter, Kansas. That is some serious hail. I'm guessing you're talking about that one. Yeah, south of Quinter. I don't know. It is a destructive storm with 80-mile-per-hour winds. I think it's just a lot of contamination on that storm. Thank you, Samantha, for the $5 super chat. A flight out of Oklahoma City to San Antonio, 6 p.m. on Tuesday evening. What are the odds the flight goes through on schedule? Tuesday evenings, Oklahoma City to San Antonio. I don't think you'll have really any problems, honestly. I think you'll be fine. I mean, I would give it... I mean, I can't really give you a probability, but I don't think you'll have any big problems with that. In my opinion. That's some crazy stuff happening in Nebraska right now. Hey, Cream, for becoming a member, and welcome to the Velocities. What category is it? It's not a hurricane, it's a tropical storm. Says it in the title, says it at the top of your screen as well. It's not going to be a hurricane probably until tomorrow. South of Blue Hills trying to drop. That's kind of what it looked like. I'm surprised there's no tornado warning on that either. It's right along the outflow. I am debating on going live for this. I mean, we're kind of already past the peak of it, but it's still pretty interesting. I'll wait for the velocities to update. Pretty interesting, though. I should. Well, I don't go live off of people's opinions. I've had so many people at me on tweets before, like, look at this storm, you should go live for this. It has some lightning and some gusty winds, and it's not even severe. I'm not going live for that. I mean, like, in this case, I would have gone live, like, 2 hours ago if I knew that was all this stuff would happen. It just, in my opinion, it's kind of already past the peak of this threat. I think if another tornado does drop, though, I'll probably go live for it. The southern one looks broader now. The northern one still looks pretty strong to me, east of Hastings. Thank you, Brandon, for the super chat. Appreciate the generosity. Thank you, Stephanie, for the $4.99. What does it look like for Temple, Texas? It should be mostly rain and some tropical storm force winds, maybe up to like 50 miles per hour. I don't expect much beyond that. I mean, unless, again, this tracks right over your area, you're not really going to see much flooding. I'm really leaning towards the worst of this flooding threat being to the east of Interstate 35, probably back from Victoria and Houston, and even just south of that near the coastline, all the way back up through Tyler, where I think the worst of the rainfall will be. Out of Beryl. Any fishing for the 199? Appreciate the generosity. Yeah, United Kingdom usually doesn't get anything. They usually just get the remnants of tropical cyclones. I am live. I am live. I was talking about going live for the severe weather threat after this stream, but I'm not sure if we're going to, because I think we're kind of past the peak. But if another tornado does drop, we'll go live for this in particular. This is live. We do not pre-record live streams. I don't think really anybody does, but we do not. New edits for the 199. What's it going to do in Tennessee? It's too early to tell, but main concern would just be some showers, thunderstorms, and perhaps a low tornado risk on either Tuesday or Wednesday. But again, we are still a few days out from there. I'm really more concerned about what's happening tomorrow and Monday. Anything beyond that is very uncertain. We don't really know what's going to happen beyond Monday. It's going to depend a lot on the speed of Beryl. If it goes faster and catches the jet stream, I would expect this threat to really go all the way up into areas like Tennessee and Kentucky. Mainly for rain, though, wind, again, maybe a few tornadoes. This could be a multi-day tornado threat, though, from Monday all the way until Wednesday or Thursday. Why is the storm so strong? I mean, it's not even that strong. I mean, for what it looks like, it's a strong tropical cyclone, but it's not really that strong. It's just it's a normal tropical storm right now. It would be a hurricane if there wasn't much wind shear or there was just more dry air. Thank you, Braxton, for the $100 super chat. Put some hearts in the chat for Braxton. You're always the best for covering all types of weather, not just tornadoes. I appreciate that. Thank you. Again, if I don't sound energetic today, it's because my voice is kind of peached out. But I do appreciate the generosity, and thank you, Braxton, for the very generous super chat. Way too kind. Sounds good, Marissa, by the way. I saw that message from earlier. Is that an eye or what is that? This isn't the eye, just convection. Right now, the eye of Beryl is going to be right underneath to the right side of this convection. The wind shear is kind of pushing this back over to the north. So it's still not organized, and it's going to stay like this probably until tomorrow morning. So don't really expect a hurricane until tomorrow morning. I don't think this will be a hurricane tonight. A lot of people are still calling this Hurricane Beryl. I mean, I would, but I'm being technical. It's not a hurricane. So, I've seen a lot of people saying Hurricane Beryl's making landfall Monday. I mean, it technically will be a hurricane. Just letting you know, I'm not going to say this is actual hurricane right now. It's just a tropical storm. Thank you, Lynn, for the $5 super chat. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to really be that concerned about Beryl. Like, as long as you are, if you're along the media coastline, or you're, like, near the path of the eye, that's when you need to be concerned, because you could get significant storm surge. And then beyond that, I mean, the potential for flooding is going to be the greater concern. You know, I'm not as concerned about the intensity when it comes to the wind speeds. I'm more concerned about storm surge, flooding, and tornadoes. So anything else, like intensity of wind speeds, like, it's going to be a concern, especially along the immediate coastline and perhaps a little bit inland, but it won't be as concerning, in my opinion, as the flooding risk. Flooding is definitely going to be a big problem with this, because it's going to be slowing down a lot. It won't be as slow as Harvey, as I said before. Like, a lot of areas, again, between 6 to 12 inches of rain is what I expect. But we definitely have the potential for some sort of tornado outbreak on Monday upon landfall in southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana. And then after Monday, it's just uncertain at this point. So that's what I'm thinking. How's it going, Jeff? Hey, Mike, for the $49.99. Appreciate the generosity. Waiting for you to cover hurricane when it comes to Florida. Yeah, I hope we don't get anything in Florida this year, but we'll see. Put some hearts in the chat, by the way, for Mike. Appreciate the generosity. Imagine if all that rain was snow. Imagine we had snow canes. Snow canes. They just brought a bunch of snow. 60 to 120 inches of snow. That'd be crazy. We did a 10-to-1 ratio. That's how that would work. What website am I on? This is just Radar Omega. It's not a website. It's just an app. Alright, quick update on the tornado warning real quick. Man, if this is a 5% tornado risk today, I would have gone live. It's been actually bonkers what's happened over here. What merch are you planning to release for 500k? I don't think 500... We're not going to hit 500,000 subscribers probably until 2025, so I'm not really concerned about that right now. And even then, I'm not really thinking about it. I'm thinking more about Beryl. Like, over the next, like, 72 hours, all we're basically going to be talking about is Beryl. Pending there being some sort of upgrade for severe weather in Oklahoma tomorrow, I do not think we're going to be talking about anything aside from Beryl over the next 3 to 4 days. I think the earliest we hit 500k would be 2025. Because I think the weather after this week is going to die down a lot. Like, I just don't see it being as crazy after Beryl moves through. If we hit somehow 500k before the end of the year, that would be absurd. I just don't see it happening. Not to be a Debbie Downer here. I just don't think it's happening. Any news on Brownsville? I don't think Brownsville will be too bad. I'll be mostly just watching for the potential for storm surge if you're near the coast. Some showers. That's really about it. I don't really think we're going to see much near Brownsville. I think the greater concern again will be from probably about Kingsville or so, maybe a little bit east of that, all the way back through Houston and maybe even near Galveston or Beaumont. And then as it moves to the north, I think the main trajectory of this, if it, as long as it goes down the direct middle, which again, it might not, but if it went down the direct middle, College Station would probably get substantial rain, perhaps flooding. That could be significant. Tyler, Boise City, Monroe. There's a lot of areas that are in the track of this, so. Thank you, Nick, for the $5 super chat. Yeah, this hurricane season is going to be crazy. There's no doubt. No doubt in my mind that we're going to be having a lot of hurricane coverages over the next 3 to 4 months. This is not going to be the only one that we're going to be talking about. Like, there's going to be a lot to talk about over the next several months when it comes to hurricanes. Honestly, I think this is not going to be our only storm that makes landfall in Texas either. I think we're going to have more than just this. We have a tornado, by the way, on the ground again in Nebraska. It looks like right over near Hastings, east side of Hastings. Yet again, another tornado on the ground. It's almost a drunk NATO. It's actually not even moving, just east of Hastings. I believe that's a tornado. Looks like it. Yep. Another tornado on the ground, west of inland. At least it's tornado warning this time. I don't think the first one was. That happened on the west side of Hastings. That tornado, though, that's on the ground, it is not moving. It's likely a drunk NATO. Time to go live? I don't know. I don't really know. I would have gone live if it was like an hour ago for those tornadoes, or like 2 hours ago. I would have gone live if I knew it was gonna be like this for the tornadoes. Again, not for the hurricane, but for the tornadoes. But it's kind of late. I would have. The other thing is we don't have any storm chasers in the area, so there wouldn't be much added value aside from radar presentation. has to be your craziest hurricane update, and not even because of the hurricane. Probably is, actually. This has definitely been one of the crazier updates. I mean, we've gotten sidetracked so many times because of what's happening in Nebraska. Yeah, Ryan's the only one there, but we still don't have him yet. The person that licenses his content out has not gotten back to me, unfortunately. Could just change the title and cover it. I'd just make a new stream if we did that. It wouldn't be that hard to do, but... I mean, unless something goes absolutely crazy here, I'm not gonna do a new live stream for this. I mean, it already looks like it's occluding. Like, these have all been pretty quick tornadoes, and it's in like a very rural area on the east side of Hastings. There's still a tornado. And right here, that's the debris signature. If we match that up with the velocities, pretty close together. Or on Highway 6, but... I mean, it's been mostly brief, so... It's just not enough. And it should... All this should be outflow driven after this. I mean, we should be mostly just looking at wind beyond now. Definitely an interesting threat, though, today. I mean, you know, if it wasn't for Beryl, I think a lot of storm chasers would be out there today. In the Central Plains. Beryl has not been upgraded. Nope, no upgrade was expected today. Again, I went live mainly just because we've had a lot of new information at least come out, and also Beryl has actually looked a bit more organized than yesterday. If it looked the same as yesterday, I would have saved a live stream till tonight. But it has become at least a little bit more organized. We've had a lot more convective activity blowing up near the center. So this is not, you know, again, fully organized, but it's getting closer. It's getting closer to doing something here soon. Hey, Noah, for the 1-month membership. Yeah, remind me at the end to do a gritty, by the way. I'm gonna probably forget again. Well, on a positive note, aside from what we have with Tropical Storm Beryl right now, behind this, there is absolutely no areas of development, and really not a whole lot of convective bursts happening. So over the next 7 days beyond Beryl, it doesn't look like we're gonna have much development across the Atlantic Ocean. Beryl's used up a lot of energy in the Caribbean Sea, so it's not really shocking. But good news. The ship's model, when it comes to the probability of rapid intensification, is at a very low chance. So if you're wondering if this is going to rapidly intensify, it is still a very low chance of happening. For those along the Texas coast. And I am still fully expecting at this point there to be this to be a Category 1 hurricane upon landfall, but it could be a Category 2. Wouldn't rule out it briefly getting to a Category 3 level. So if you're back over there in South Texas, be prepared at least for the potential for a Category 2 hurricane. That's what you need to be prepping for if you're right along the immediate coast. If you're in the cone of uncertainty, prepare now. It's time to prepare. It's not too late to start preparing. We're on Saturday. Impacts will start to be felt along the immediate coast as early as tomorrow morning, and then they'll really start to be felt later in the day. So that's what I'm expecting right now. How's it going, random? It's not. I highly doubt this gets to a Category 5. The odds of this getting to a Category 5 are so low. Like, so low. And if you hear otherwise on TikTok, they probably don't know what they're talking about. Unless they're talking about the past or something, which is different. Beaumont, Texas. I think you might just get narrowly missed by the worst of the rain, but I'll be preparing at least for some flooding rains if the eye gets closer to Houston compared to like Port Lavaca, for example. Tornado risk is going to be slightly more elevated over there. Tropical storm force winds would be about all when it comes to wind. Also, I think this rotation in Nebraska is occluding again. Might be some developing east of Glenville, can't really tell yet. And you update velocities. There it is. All right, so there's Yeah, this is probably, I mean, there's like a little bit of rotation west of Clay Center, but aside from that, I think this will be mostly wind from here on out with QLCS tornadoes. Today would have been again, if Beryl did not exist, we would be probably live covering severe weather right now. If Beryl just did not exist at all, it's been kind of an interesting day of severe weather. How's it going, Avery? Appreciate you tuning in. Connor Croft is the GOAT. Yeah, this storm's been pretty nuts the entire time. Laura mentioned in chat that this has been nuts. It's probably going to stay, I mean, it's probably going to go crazy tomorrow evening. It's going to try to rapidly intensify, I think, before making landfall. Will it be successful? It's probably not going to be, but as this moves closer to Corpus Christi, there will be a lot less wind shear, less dry air. It's going to have a small window of opportunity to try to rapidly intensify tomorrow. So, small window. Chris, I've not seen any memes, so no clue. They have issued a new tornado warning. Clay Center is included in that, and Sutton, new little area of circulation. In Nebraska, so if you're in the pink polygon, seek shelter away from windows and on the lowest floor possible. Everything else does appear outflow driven, so this will probably be the last hurrah of a tornado risk. That's at least maybe significant. All right, let's go back to infrared imagery, and we'll stay here for the moment. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. We will have another live update tonight on YouTube, and probably only YouTube, at Max Velocity WX. If you are watching us right now on Facebook, you can subscribe to our channel. The link is in the description. And, yeah, again, we'll have a live update tonight on YouTube at some point. I don't know what time yet, but it'll probably be closer to like 8 or 9. It'll be probably before the National Hurricane Center update. So, there will be another update. I won't be doing severe weather coverage, I don't think, unless something goes crazy. So, would not expect an update on severe weather today. Ready for secondary tornado season? I don't know when secondary tornado season would even be after Beryl. After Beryl, it does not look like much is going to be happening in the United States. Honestly, looks like it's going to be pretty quiet. Knock on wood. Literally. Knock on wood. Will this impact DFW? There will be some rain, but it's not going to be substantial, unless, again, this eye tracks right up the left side of the cone of uncertainty. I am currently expecting rainfall totals between anywhere from like 0 to 1 inches of rain, up to maybe 6 to 8 inches of rain. The more significant area of rain will be south and east of DFW. If the eye, for whatever reason, does track up through, like, Austin, we'll probably end up seeing a lot more rainfall in Dallas-Fort Worth. But again, I'm not overly concerned right now about that. I think it'll be a low chance of anything substantial in DFW. The eye currently is located right about where the X is. It's a little bit now northwest of the green mark there. It's still not organized. Even though it looks like it's organizing, it's still really not. It's trying to organize, but wind shear and dry air is kind of killing this thing still from really organizing. I'm not going to stay live to the next update. I will be live again, though, for the next update at 11. I'll be live for the update at 10. I'm not going to be live for the one at 7. Unless something, again, rapidly changes. Because the 8 p.m. update or 7 p.m. Central update, that's usually a pretty small update. It's not anything... No major changes are going to happen at that update, I don't think. They don't update the cone of uncertainty or anything like that at that update. But they will have hurricane hunters going into it probably near the update. So that's basically all that'll come out of that over the next couple hours. No problem, Toby. Appreciate you tuning in. All right, quickly gonna check on Nebraska again. All right, mostly right now, just looking at wind. Maybe another isolated tornado or two on the leading edge of that activity. Pretty rural areas of southern Nebraska up until it gets to Beatrice, which that line should be a bit weaker by then. So if you're in Nebraska, again, just continue to stay weather aware. And we will activate an emergency live stream for that if it does become, like, again, extremely concerning or something like that. So a lot of that activity has been pretty quick. There's only been like, I think there was one large tornado and it only happened for like a minute or two. Thank you, Gabe, for the 4-month membership. Not doing too bad. My voice is a little bit off today, but it was yesterday too. But we should be good to go for pretty extended coverage tomorrow and Monday. The stream is not over. We are definitely still live. We'll be live for probably another 12 minutes or so, just answering questions. And then we'll have our next live update at like 8 o'clock Central. I'll probably end up scheduling the live stream in like an hour, so you have an idea of when it'll be. We'll have another full-blown update. Am I sick? I'm not really, I don't think I'm really that sick. I mean, like, I feel a little bit off, but like not like sick. You know what I mean? All right. I'll still answer questions. I'm going to quickly open up some fan mail, because we do have some fan mail to get to. We usually do this for members only, but this is stuff that we're not going to be able to do during coverage and whatnot, so we're going to open up a few packages real quick. We got our first one, which is from Riley, out of New Hampshire, actually. They see the mesoscale discussion for Eastern Nebraska. Did it just come out? Or was that a little while ago? New severe thunderstorm watch warranted. That's the latest update. No problem, Susan. Appreciate you tuning in. Yeah, we'll have more updates like this. We're probably going to be live twice tomorrow as well. Maybe 3 times. Okay, so this is what I got sent. What is this? Can somebody explain to me what this is? Let me read the note as well. Hey, for all you do, ever enjoy this bowl cozy I made for you. I don't know what that is. Looks like a hat. Oh. What am I gonna do with this? It doesn't even fit my head. It's for hot bowls. I thought that was a hat. It looks like a hat to me. Nice little hat. Nice little design. Look like a chef with this thing on. Matches your shirt. It sure does. It was a good day to wear the aqua blue t-shirt. All right. Well, that's interesting. Appreciate that. I don't know who sent it. It says Riley, but I don't know if that's just the name because it's an Etsy business. So, but whoever sent that, do appreciate it. All right. Then we have our next package, which this is going to be from John. Nice packaging. How was my vacation? Wasn't bad. It was quick. It wasn't really much of a vacation. It was really quick. So. But it was nice to get away for a couple days right before pretty hefty coverage here over the next few days. All right. Now, inside of the package, we have an Amazon packaging with... I'm sure I'm not missing anything here. What is going on with it? What? Okay, I got a couple things here. I got an envelope, which is just with a written message, I think. Yep. All right, so we got an envelope that says, "Hi, Max from Pennsylvania. John and Penny," I think it says, or Panny. This is a call sign. Okay. Oh, look at this. Sheesh. It's like a tornado. It's actually really cool. Thank you for sending this to me. This is actually really cool. All right, real quickly, we have a new tornado warning. I'm gonna go to that real quick. I'm guessing it's gonna be near Nelson. Oh wait, that's North Dakota. We have an observed tornado in North Dakota. What in the world is happening? We have now probably a land spout or something, but we have now an observed tornado south of Stanley in North Dakota. This, I kind of wish we went live for severe weather. It's been crazy. I low-key wish we instead did a severe weather live stream. I didn't realize how crazy it would be today. I don't know how many people are in that warning. I think it's a pretty rural area. North Dakota is a very... I don't know how many people live in North Dakota, but I think it's maybe like 1 million. Even then, those are usually near high population-centered areas, so... Strange stuff, though, I gotta say that. But thank you, by the way, John and Penny, for this. Protective film as well, I'm taking that off. That actually glows now, look at this thing. Sheesh. Actually really cool. Seven people, is that it? I haven't seen the warning on Twitter yet. Anybody know where I can buy something like that? I couldn't even tell you. I get mailed stuff, and most of the time I have no clue where it comes from. Alright, give me 1 second. I gotta get scissors for this one. This is a big package. This is what it looks like. This is like another large package. As a reminder, by the way, if you need some Hurricane Beryl, or Tropical Storm Beryl coverage, I should say, or update, I should say, if you want an update on it, go back to the very beginning of the stream, and we talk all about it. I will have another update again at 8 o'clock Central or so, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. If you're following us on Facebook, we're not going to probably have another update on Facebook tonight. Pending if I have a Storm Chaser tonight, I might, so it's going to depend more on that. If we don't have a Storm Chaser, we'll be live on both platforms, but if we do have a Storm Chaser, we'll only be on YouTube. I'm well aware there's a confirmed tornado in North Dakota. I know, we just talked about it. Again, we're not going to be going live for severe weather unless something happens there in Nebraska that goes crazy. It's kind of too late, I think, to go live for this, because the majority of what the peak of the threat here in Nebraska has already happened, so... There are currently 3 different extremely dangerous situations, severe thunderstorm warnings in Kansas. All for wind, up to 80 miles per hour, which is pretty crazy. It's actually, the severe weather's been pretty crazy today. Any hail expected in Kyle, Texas? I don't know where Kyle is, but if you're in like... If you're in like southeast Texas or whatnot, like... These storms that are the tornadic supercells that we're going to see from Hurricane Beryl, they're not going to really produce hail, so. Reed Timmer's calling for a Category 3 or 4 at landfall. Is he actually? Like, I don't know. I think that's... Like, everybody has their own prediction, but, like, in my opinion, a Category 3 or 4 is a stretch. I think Category 3 is possible. I think Category 4 is a huge stretch. I said this earlier. I think what's going to happen with this when it makes landfall. I think it'll be at least a Category 2 upon landfall. Or at least a Category 1, but possibly even a Category 2. I would not be shocked at a Category 3. It's a stretch, in my opinion. Okay, this is a lot of stuff in this package. Holy cow. Wait, who was this from? I didn't get a name on this. This is a package with a lot of stuff. This is from Earl in Michigan. We got a full-blown sign to begin with. This is literally a quote that I say, I think, on every single tornado warning that we have. We got a hurricane tracking chart. That's actually sick. Got a full-blown hurricane tracking chart. It's like there's a lot of words on it. I'm not going to read the entire thing. It actually has a whole, like, it has a list of, like, things that you should do when you're under, like, a hurricane warning and stuff. Like, determine now if you should evacuate your home and go to a shelter in the event of a hurricane. Sterilize bathtubs and containers and fill enough drinking water to last at least 3 days. Actually, some interesting stuff there. There's like 17 points. I'm not going to read all of them. But be prepared for a hurricane. There you go. Hurricane preparedness. Actually, you might even use some of those things tonight on our update. It's actually kind of useful. I don't know what is going on here. I don't know what this is, but it basically says Hurricane Max blows into town. Okay. Interesting. Alright, there's a lot of stuff in here. We got a Kurd Nerd. Did Earl literally make all this stuff custom? I thought this might not be I think this is all custom, I think. I got Kurd Nerd, which I'm not going to wear, by the way, because we're not trying to upgrade this hurricane. Oh my goodness, there's so much stuff in this package. Hurricane season starts in June. So we're already in hurricane season. We got Hurricane Mitch. We got a t-shirt here. Hurricane Mitch, you can't really see it. I'm not going to unfold the entire thing because it's going to be messy otherwise. Respect the Polygon. That's James Spann. And then slight, enhanced, moderate, and high risk t-shirt. There's like, I think I just got 5 t-shirts or 4 t-shirts. That is a lot. And we also have an envelope, which has even more stuff. Got an enamel pin to start. So a pin, which is pretty cool. I don't know what this is at all. Oh, it's a sticker. Weather Nerd. A nice little sticker. Weather Nerd. And we got a easily distracted by cloud formations. I actually have to agree with that. I do often get distracted by cloud formations. And then after that, I don't know what any of this is, but I think it's just more stickers. There's 4 of them. I don't know what that is, but there's 4 of them. And then the last thing that has come out of this package is a $25 gift card to Culver's, which we are not using until after the hurricane, but I really do appreciate that. Thank you. Earl, put some hearts in the chat for Earl. I don't know if Earl's watching, but that is a lot of stuff. And also, there is a tornado-like thing here. I don't know what this exactly like is made of, but it's kind of like a thicker metal sort of thing. But holy cow, that is a crazy package. That is the most things that has ever been in a package. I can definitely say that. That was at least 20 different items. But I do appreciate the everything. I mean, this is a lot of stuff. Literally. So many things here. A lot of stuff. I don't even know where to put all this stuff. There's so much stuff here. But I really do appreciate it. All right. Let's see. All right, here's the plan. Obviously, we've already talked about Beryl. I have to 3D print you some things. Feel free to. I mean, again, if you want to mail me anything, the link is in the description down below. I'll also post the link in the chat a few times in case you don't see it down there. But if you want to mail anything, feel free to. We'll do, most of the time, again, members only stuff. It's only when we do fan mail openings, it's usually members only. But since we've been so busy recently, we're just kind of doing them on streams right now. So, but after this week, we'll probably be back to doing it normally on members only stuff. But here's the plan. We'll be live again probably around 8 o'clock Central for another Hurricane Beryl update. Technically tropical storm, but you know, it will be a hurricane. That's at least what we're thinking. Probably around 8 o'clock Central. Again, I'll schedule a live stream at some point in the next hour or so, and from there we'll go from there. And then after that, we are going to have coverage tomorrow. I don't know to what extent yet, and I don't know when, but we'll probably be live at some point tomorrow. All right. And again, if you are new to the channel, subscribe down below, like the stream, and yeah, we'll probably be live again at 8. I'm not going to guarantee it, but I think we'll be live again at 8. All right, so we'll have another live coverage. We'll kind of give you an update on what's happening out there, what to expect out of Beryl, and if there's any big changes, we'll definitely be live. If it's pretty much the same as what's right now, we might consider just pushing out to tomorrow, but yeah, we're at least going to consider it. All right, quick gritty on the way out because I almost forgot again, and then we'll be done. As I forgot yesterday, so we have to gritty today. Let's go ahead and do that. All right, cool. Well, that's it. Appreciate you guys all tuning in. Again, if you're new to the channel, subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, again, there are still some of you that are watching on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel down below. The link's in the description. Also, make sure to like the stream and subscribe, and also share the page on Facebook, or share the stream. There's a lot of information at the beginning of the stream that's important. After that, it's kind of, you know, really... like a lot of anything that happened after like 40 minutes in is kind of whatever, but the first like 40 minutes are pretty good for an update. So if you want to share this with your friends or family, feel free to hit the share button down below, and that helps the page out a lot. And thank you guys all for watching. We'll see you guys all again in the next stream, which will probably be around 8 o'clock Central tonight, so we got a few hours. If not, we'll be live tomorrow. All right, so we'll see. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys all again in the next one.